This was going to be so beautiful. It was supposed to be the year of Motorola. Last week, I was elated for CES, thinking that we were going to get the announcement of the Motorola Signature, which we did, though not the announcement I was hoping for, that the company was going to release a book-style foldable, although not the one that we wound up getting. And I certainly wasn't expecting the news that AT&T is going to be removing, supposedly, Motorola devices from carrier stores. So what turned into a 2026 that I was looking for Motorola to really run up the score, now I'm a little more hesitant. We're going to talk about the Fold in this video. We might talk about the Motorola Signature and AT&T at the end of the video. I'm still holding out hope. I'm not going to eat Motorola's lunch for the Signature just yet, in the hopes that it comes to the United States as the Edge 70 Ultra or something like that. There were some rumblings that were possible. But I did want to talk about the Fold because it's an interesting phone. I don't mind the look. I don't mind the fact that Motorola uses a uniform look. I think it's unoffensive. I think it's pretty cool looking. You're going to complain about that and then have Samsung literally put the same design on an A17 as it does on its $2,000 folding phone. So I don't think I'm really not going to have any problem with that or be overly concerned about the design. The camera hub is massive, though. Now, they give a telephoto lens. We'll see how that operates and how the weight is. I have not held one in hand. I should ask some people who have. But I'll see what the weight is like, because it does feel like it could be a little top heavy with that massive camera hump on there. The specs are going to be what you'd expect. I think a Snapdragon 8 Gen 5, not 8 Elite Gen 5, to cut costs. 12 or 16 gigs of RAM. You saw the specs that we do know is 6.6-inch outer cover display and 8.1-inch internal display, the triple 50 megapixel camera setup. Here's my concern and where the thoughts come in. We heard rumors that it was going to be a different type of book-style foldable, much similar to a Microsoft Surface Duo. What are the benefits of that? Well, you'd still get two screens, but a physical hinge separated by two screens with the glass. You'd expect at this point the manufacturing of that to be a lot cheaper, a lot less expensive. And I was hoping that Motorola would take kind of LG's approach to screen real estate. Oh, you want more screens? You want another screen? Okay, well, here's a case that's a screen, right? It's cost effective. You get kind of a lot of the functionality that you'd expect from a larger display. It's not as fragile on the internal display. There's not the hinge to deal with. So I kind of expected Moto to go in that direction. They didn't. They came out with a regular book-style fold, like the Pixel 10 Pro Fold, like the Galaxy Z Fold 7. That's fine. But if you're going to do that, I don't see where the device really gains traction. Is it price? Okay. That's the only area where I think Motorola has an in. Rumors suggest $1,500. I hope it's at least that, if not a little less. If you want to come in and be the scrappy new foldable, you're going to have to provide something different. That's why I thought maybe a different form factor. But if you're not going to do that, then you really have to undercut all of them by a lot. You can't just come in at $1,700, $1,800 and say, oh, we're $200 cheaper than the Galaxy Z Fold 7. I don't think that's going to move the needle for people. So I would have liked to have seen $1,400. You hope that the aggressive sales that Motorola typically has throughout the year with its devices carry over to something like that. And you start at $1,500, but like the Razr Ultra, 4 or 5 months down the line, you get it for like $1,200. Then I could kind of see where it makes sense. I like that it has stylus support, the Motorola Pen Ultra. So that's something that they've brought back that Samsung has left behind. So those are the things. Because I don't think, when you think of Motorola, the strong suit isn't software. The strong suit isn't innovation on the software side. Hello UI is unoffensive, but you're not going to see a fundamentally different user experience that may have attracted people to something like another book-style foldable that's akin to what we've seen before. I don't think you're getting that from Motorola in the slightest. So price is really going to be what the company has to hang its hat on. And is it going to be enough to be $500 cheaper? And this is where the AT&T bit comes in. Yes, there's still Verizon. There's still Metro by T-Mobile. There's still T-Mobile. There's still all these other companies, MVNOs and all the rest. Do they stick around? Number one, is this like the first domino to fall, and then you're going to see Verizon, you're going to see T-Mobile, and everybody removing Moto device? I don't think so. Only because, especially for the MVNOs, Motorola seems like the phone that people go to. You know, it's the phone you can pick up for $200, $300. You get a lot of times for free on these carrier deals. So I hope not. But if it is, then all of a sudden a large $1,500 phone, even though it's $500 cheaper than the Galaxy Z Fold 7, if you're going in an AT&T store or another carrier store, if something else happens with these other carriers, and you're looking at a Z Fold 7, like, oh, you know what? This is $50 on my monthly bill. And I got to order the Motorola Razr Fold online, and I got to outlay $1,500 plus tax right from the start. Don't think that doesn't make a difference. We've talked about carrier stuff before with OnePlus. It absolutely makes a difference. I know a lot of enthusiasts are like, I just buy my devices. I don't know what I got to finance, carrier finance. What is this? Tens of millions of Americans finance their phones through carriers. It makes a difference, especially when you're talking these book-style foldables, these near $2,000 devices. You need some sort of a mechanism, some sort of instrument to limit that upfront impact. And that's what these monthly payments do. So if you're going to crack into that market, I think you need every single advantage that you can get to get that monthly payment down for people that say, you know what, okay, the Z Fold 7 is $50 a month, but with a trade-in or something like that, I could get my Razr Fold payment down to $35. You know, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to give it a shot. And to me, it's a significant disadvantage if you remove that conversation from the buyer's mind. And so that's why the AT&T news was so very disappointing to me. And I don't understand the the Motorola Signature not releasing in the US. Because if anything, I hope the company has another plan for it. Because the other thing that alarmed me is 1,000 euros. And I don't know why it's starting at 1,000 euros for the spec sheet. That seems a little off to me. So if it is coming to the United States, maybe they do something with do a variant that's slightly cheaper. But that phone with that spec sheet's got to come in at 800, absolute max $850. So if they could do that with an Edge 70 Ultra, later in the spring or later in the winter to compete with the very expensive, most likely, perhaps even more expensive with these price increases, S26 Ultra, then you'd have something. This is why I'm so disappointed, because Motorola had already built up credibility on the premium side and the mid-range side with the Razr. Durability was good, the hinges are good, the phones are excellent, the outer display experience is top-notch. The company kind of put a toehold back in the United States market. This was the time to capitalize on that. People were disgruntled with the S25 Ultra. People were disgruntled, a lot of people were disgruntled with Pixel. That was the time to say, you know what? Not only are we going to give you great performance, we're going to give you faster charging, we're going to give you a better, bigger silicon carbide battery, and we're going to give it to you for less money. Wow. And with 7 years of support, because they changed the policy on the Motorola Signature. 7 years of support, software support is promised. Boy, that would have been a winner. Where do I sign? Where do so many people sign? And then, slap it on carrier shelves next to the more expensive Galaxy S26 Ultra, the more expensive Pixel 10 Pro XL, and you got a winner. To me, I don't understand. Maybe there's some sort of calculus somewhere that Motorola doesn't see it the way I do, but to me, that's a slam dunk, no-brainer. And yet we don't have it to start the year. So my questions are many, the answers are few, and I just feel like the trend has turned against Motorola in the first 10 days of 2026. So it's still early, obviously. I don't know the entire picture. I don't know whether we're going to get some sort of flagship variant here in the United States, but we've seen this movie before. They teased, there were rumors that there was a flagship coming to the United States, I think at the beginning of 2024, I think it was. It didn't happen. They announced it. It went overseas. It was the Edge 50 Ultra, or whatever the device was. We never got it. Never. The entire year. So it's not like there's not something from recent memory where Motorola has teased a device that I thought was coming to the United States and then given us nothing. And then we're just going to get an expensive Fold on top of it and some sort of weird AI thing and the Pen Ultra. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. I would love to know what people think, but I really was hoping that this was shaping up to be the year of Motorola. They laid the groundwork to have an excellent year. There was the credibility was there, the devices were there, the need is absolutely there at the flagship level for these kind of hyper flagships. That's why I'm so high on the OnePlus 15R. Not going to make a dent, right? Because of the carrier stores. Not going to really be a huge competitor here in the United States, but the blueprint is there. That you can have a device with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 5. Save that those few bucks on the like you would spend on the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5. Put that into the savings on cost. There are certain corners you can cut that still give you a fantastic performance experience. Maybe you skimp on cameras a little bit. Maybe that's the differentiating factor. Where then all of a sudden, if you want the camera performance, well, that's why you spend over $1,000. For people who just want performance, gaming, if you're doing photo editing, you want some of the AI power stuff, here's these ultra mid-range, hyper mid-range devices at $800 that do all of that. Really thought that that's where Motorola was going to go. Hasn't been the case. Anyway, lots to talk about this year for sure. If you made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have the delicious day.